There's something powerful about the eyes of another. If you stare into them long enough, you'll see beyond immediate appearances, beyond age or status or ethnicity or even religion. Look into their eyes. You'll see their joy and pain in the midst of abandonment. You'll see their hope and frustration as they struggle to survive. In the end, you will see that they're not much different than yourself. Mother Teresa said, "I've come to realize more and more that the greatest disease and the greatest suffering is to be unwanted, unloved, uncared for, to be shunned by everybody, to be just nobody to anyone." Expected to surpass China as the most populated nation by 2025, India is emerging as one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Despite this tremendous growth, many are being left behind in their own country, most profoundly, abandoned and orphaned children.
In 2004, Sean and I came to India for the very first time, and we saw the tremendous needs throughout the nation. There was one issue that stood out among the rest. It was the issue of kids who were alone, abandoned, and even orphaned. And every time we went back to the United States, we felt like we could just be doing something more. And so that's why we came once again. We came to document their lives, to help tell their stories, to see what life was like through the eyes of the orphan.
Located in the southern state of Andhra Pradesh, the city of Tenali is a thriving agricultural center with a major railroad junction. Even though Tenali has a population of 300,000 and a strong middle class, the area attracts many abandoned children due to the railway. David and Sean arrived in Tenali hoping to find kids who would help them to see life through the eyes of the orphan. What would they experience? What would they learn? How might they see the world differently? The first time they visited Tenali was to work with Harvest India, a humanitarian organization founded over 40 years ago and now led by Suresh Kumar. Because the railway is ripe with opportunities to beg from passing travelers, David and Sean had a hunch that they'd find unaccompanied children in the area. What they didn't expect was to find such a large group within a few feet of their hotel.
We didn't have a group of kids pre-planned to follow along. It's not like we called some railway station worker and said, "Hey, do you have any homeless kids there?" No, we actually showed up and just began to look. And we had the intention of following a group around because we felt like, man, if there really are 31 million orphans in the nation of India, they're not gonna be living alone. Probably gonna be living in groups or family, kind of a family system. And so we felt like if we could find one of those groups or families of children, what would it look like for us to build trust with them and then be able to document their stories?
Within minutes of stepping out of their hotel, they were warmly welcomed into a world they could have never imagined. 25 orphaned and abandoned children living as a family alongside the railway. According to UNICEF, there are 31 million orphans in the nation of India, a number that may mean more to you once you hear their stories.
This group did most of their begging, most of the way they survived was behind a train station, and that's where their home was. And when I say home, I mean like dirt floor behind a fence.
Just filthy, full of trash and needles and condoms and all kinds of mess. We began to see how others were sleeping on concrete in front of storefronts. They had blankets that they would find that were just filthy and they would cover up. And one of the main reasons they would cover up is to, hide so that people wouldn't see that they were kids, but also to hide from mosquitoes biting them in the middle of the night.
After they showed us that, we all kind of sat down and people just started showing us their wounds.
It's the first thing they want to show you, really.
That is really what they want to show you first. They want to show you that they don't have a leg or they don't have an arm. We're talking very nasty wounds.
One of the reasons why they want to show you their wounds right off the bat is because it's what's on their mind. It's what is disabling them. It's what's hurting them from taking a step forward. And it's also their tool for begging. It's the reason why they're able to go to the train station and show their lack of an arm and gain money for that.
I would say a third of them around had a limb missing. The reason they had a limb missing is because they try to jump the train, they miss the train, they fall underneath, and they lose a hand, arm, leg, and that's tough.
We just assumed that if a group of 30 or so kids were living together, there had to be one older child, most likely, that was going to emerge as a leader. There's no way that a group of kids would just live together without leadership emerging. And we ended up meeting that individual. His name was Reddy. And he was in his early 20s, but he had been living on the street 10, 12 years and had learned so much over those years that he now had emerged in the Tenali train station as somebody that could be relied on, somebody who was able to give his information, his knowledge, his experience to the other kids to help them out.
We just call you ready? Ready. That's because you're always ready to take action. You're the leader, man. I like you. All right. I like it. Go for it.
We would see him rallying the kids and pulling them together whenever we'd want to do something. He would instantly call and they would come. Or if there was a concern with one child, he would be there on the spot and there was compassion.
నా పేరు సత్యరెడ్డి. నాకు నాన్న లేడు, డాడీనో మమ్మీ. చిన్నతనంలో మా అమ్మ నన్ను కొట్టింది. కొట్టంగానే రైల్వే స్టేషన్కి వస్తే రైల్వే స్టేషన్లో భోగిలు ఉడుచుకునే పిల్లకాయలు ఆకలేస్తుంటే రైలు బండిలో ఎక్కగానే ఆ పిల్లలు నన్ను విజయవాడకి తీసుకొని వచ్చారు. భోగిలు ఊడ్చే పిల్లలు అన్నం పెట్టి, ట్రైన్ ఊడ్చే పిల్లలు అన్నం పెట్టి విజయవాడకి తీసుకొని వెళ్ళి విజయవాడ నవజీవన హాస్టల్లో జాయిన్ చేసి ఆ హాస్టల్లో ఉంచి ఆ హాస్టల్లో సంవత్సరం 1 month ఉన్నా. ఆ సంవత్సరంలోనే పిల్లలు వాళ్ళ అలవాట్లు అన్నీ నాకు ఏమేమి ఉన్నాయో అన్నీ నేర్పించారు. ఆ అలవాట్ల ద్వారా అలాగా అన్ని ఊర్లు, ప్రతి ఊరు, పెద్ద పెద్ద ఊర్లు అన్నీ తిరిగి మళ్ళీ లాస్ట్కి రిటర్న్ 10 years అయిపోగానే ఈ తెనాలకు వచ్చి 3 సంవత్సరాలు అయింది నేను.
నా పేరు లక్ష్మి. మా అమ్మ నాన్న లేరు, నన్ను పెంచిన వాళ్ళు ఉన్నారు. చిన్నప్పటి నుంచి పెంచారు మా అమ్మ నాన్న. వాళ్ళ కాడే ఉన్నాను, వాళ్ళు బాగా చూసుకుంటారు. అప్పుడప్పుడు ఇంట్లో గొడవైనప్పుడు ఎట్టంటే అటు కొట్టేవాళ్ళు, వాతలు కూడా పెట్టారు. మా సొంత అమ్మ వాళ్ళు పెట్టలేదు, నన్ను పెంచిన వాళ్ళు వాతలు పెట్టారు. ఎట్టంటే అటు కొట్టేలాకి ఇంట్లోంచి వచ్చేసా. బండి వస్తుంటే కాలు నొప్పులు వస్తాయి. బస్సు ఇక్కడ ఉన్నప్పుడు ఒక అబ్బాయి కాడ ఉన్నాను. బస్సు ఉన్నప్పుడు ఆ అబ్బాయి ఇంకా అబ్బాయితో మాట్లాడానని చెప్పి ఆ అబ్బాయి బండికి చేయి పెట్టిచ్చాడు సార్.
శారద వచ్చి ఉంటే గిల్లిగింతలు పెట్టేశాడు సోమన్న బాబు. అరే చిలిపి కన్నులతో శ్రీదేవిని చూసి కన్నులు కొట్టాడు కమల ఆశను.
నా పేరు సత్యానంద. అమ్మ నాన్న లేరు. నా వయసు 18. యాక్సిడెంట్లో చనిపోయారు సార్. బస్ యాక్సిడెంట్. లారీ వచ్చి గుద్దేసింది బస్సులో కూర్చోండి. అన్నయ్య ఒకడున్నాడు అంతే.
నా పేరు నాగరాజు. నా వయసు 18. మా అమ్మ నాన్న ఉన్నారు. నాది హైదరాబాద్.
మంచిగా మాట్లాడుకోండి.
నేను మా అమ్మ నాన్నతో పాటు చిన్నప్పుడు సినిమాకి వచ్చాను సార్. సినిమాకి వస్తే పదాలు ఎదురుగానే ఉంటాయి అక్కడ సికింద్రాబాద్లో. అయితే ఒక హాల్లో నుంచి వచ్చేసి ఇంకో హాల్లోకి వెళ్ళిపోయాను. అలా తప్పిపోయేసి నడుచుకుంటూ వస్తే రైల్వే స్టేషన్కి వచ్చేసాను. ట్రైన్ వేసి ట్రైన్ని చూడాలని ఇష్టంతో వచ్చేసి ఇంకా స్టేషన్లో ఉంటే పడుకున్నాను ఇంకా అక్కడే. ఇంకా ఆ తర్వాత ఇంకా అలాగ బండి అలవాటు అయిపోయి వచ్చేసాను.
ఈ అబ్బాయి పేరు పోలయ్య, ఈ అమ్మాయి పేరు ఈ కోటేశ్వరి. ఈ పిల్లోడికి 5 సంవత్సరాలు, ఈ అమ్మాయికి 10 సంవత్సరాలు. వీళ్ళిద్దరూ రైల్వే స్టేషన్లో వాళ్ళ అమ్మ నాన్న ఇద్దరు కొట్టి వీళ్ళిద్దరిని అడుక్కొని రమ్మని పంపించారు. పంపిస్తే వీళ్ళిద్దరు అడుక్కోవడానికి రైల్వే స్టేషన్లోకి ఈ అమ్మాయి వీళ్ళ తమ్ముడిని తీసుకొని ఎత్తుకొని రైలు బలలో అడుక్కుంటా అలా తిరుగుతూ ఉంటే మేము అలా వెళ్ళేసి ఏ ఊరి మీద ఏ ఊరు నుండి వచ్చారు ఏంటంటే ఇటు సంగతి మా అమ్మ వాళ్ళు అడుక్కోమన్నారు, అడుక్కుంటున్నాం అనగానే వాళ్ళని తీసుకొని ఇక మా దగ్గర ఎక్కడుంటే బాగోదని చెప్పి మేము అటు దూరం హాస్టల్కి తీసుకెళ్ళాం. మాలో ఇక్కడ బయట పడుకోబెడితే వీళ్ళు చిన్నపిల్లలు ఇబ్బంది పడతారని చెప్పి హాస్టల్కి తీసుకెళ్ళి హాస్టల్లో పెట్టాం. హాస్టల్లో పెట్టి వీళ్ళకి అక్కడే ఫుడ్ అన్నం వాళ్ళు పెడతారు, వాళ్ళ ద్వారా పెట్టేస్తున్నాం. మేము వెళ్తలేదు హాస్టల్కి. వీళ్ళని వాళ్ళ ద్వారానే వాళ్ళ అమ్మ వాళ్ళకి కబురు పెడితే వాళ్ళ అమ్మ నాన్న ఇద్దరు ఇంత మటుకి వాళ్ళని చూస్తానికి మాకు వద్దు అనేసి రాల.
నా పేరు గీత, నా వయసు 20. మా నాన్న నాకు అమ్మ లేదు, నాన్న ఉన్నాడు. నాన్న మళ్ళీ మ్యారేజ్. మా నాన్న పనికి వెళ్తూ ఉంటాడు, పొద్దున్న లేచి పనికి వెళ్తూ ఉంటాడు. పనికి వెళ్తూ ఉన్నప్పుడు మా తల్లి కొడతా ఉండేది, ఇబ్బందులు పెట్టిస్తూ ఉండేది. ఆ బాధలు భరించలేక ఇంట్లో చదువుకోవడం వచ్చేసాను. స్కూల్ నుండి వచ్చేసాను. ఏ వయసులో అంటే 17 సంవత్సరాల పిల్లప్పుడు, 6వ తరగతి చదువుతున్నప్పుడు.
నా పేరు ఎల్లప్ప. నాకు అమ్మ నాన్న లేరు, చనిపోయారు. మా అమ్మ క్యాన్సర్, మా నాన్నకి చంపారు. మా అక్కని లేదని మా నాన్న కూడా చచ్చిపోయారు. మా అక్కకు వేరే వాడిని చేసుకునేసి మా బావ కొడుతుంటే
One of the biggest challenges that the kids face is just getting enough money to eat on a daily basis. And so you see them begging beside the railway platform to passengers that are coming, to and from. But you also see them get onto the railway car while it's waiting to go to the next station. And they'll take a rag and just wipe the bottom of the train. They're not even really picking up trash. It's more just a pseudo cleaning. And then they'll look up at a passenger and hold their hand up. It's a way of them displaying in Indian culture being a good boy or a good girl. It's like they're actually doing something. They're making a living by cleaning. And then they'll hold their hand out and the passenger may give them 1 or 2 rupees. And by the end of the day, they have, $1 or 2 saved up.
అందరు తలకు ₹1, ₹2 ఇస్తారని వాళ్ళందరూ మంచి పని చేస్తున్నామని అనుకుంటారు. బండ్లలో ఊడ్చుకుంటుంటాం, ఊడ్చుకొని ఆడుకొనేసేసి హోటల్లో అన్నం తెచ్చుకుంటాం. అది
డబ్బులు ఎక్కడి నుంచి వస్తాయి?
మామూలుగా బండ్లలో ఊడ్చుకొనేసి ప్యాసింజర్లు ఉంటుందిలే, నాకు ₹1 అంటే వాళ్ళు ₹2 ఇస్తారు. అట్టే జమ చేసుకుని అన్నం తెచ్చుకుంటాం, తింటాం. అది
They really work as a family. And so when someone's without in the group, the other part of the group takes care of that particular person. And that can be from food to protection to clothing to medicine. Yeah, pretty much about everything.
The reason why we were there was to understand what life was like for them as an abandoned or orphan child who was living alone beside the railway station. And as we saw where they were sleeping and how uncomfortable it must be and how dangerous it is, we felt like we couldn't really understand what their life was like until we were willing to take that step to perhaps stay the night where they sleep.
We needed to do this also to show them that we were not, above them. We wanted to be among them. So we're getting ready to sleep with our friends.
My either sleep.
You'll sleep right here?
Okay. Two boys will sleep. My either sleep.
All right. And then we'll sleep up here? Yes. Okay? Okay.
When we first laid down, we wondered if we were ever going to get even a wink of sleep that night. It was so hot. I literally took my socks and pulled them over the top of the bottom of my pants so that mosquitoes wouldn't get up into my legs.
Okay, so we'd only been settled down for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and 2 police officers came up with sticks and wanted to know why we were here and who we were, and asked for our passports. They were pretty stern at first. Then they asked us where else were we staying and who were we with. So we told them we were at the Gotham Hotel, which is just about maybe 100 yards away. And then they wanted the room number so they could go check it out, check our story out. So I think it's going to check out fine. But they said they were just patrolling, and when they left, they seemed okay about it. But I think they were wondering why 2 Americans were sleeping on the streets.
We had to move locations because this drunk guy kept coming back yelling at us, and our guys, they felt nervous for us.
Yeah. But now we're going to be sleeping on the dirt, and it's a little muddy and kind of gross. I got up before the kids. And when I got up, it was like a group of puppies. They'd all migrated together. And it was really neat to see, this group, because it was a security, it looked like, it was, one of the first big showings of love. You saw this, even though it was just a pile of kids, but it was like these blanket mounds, but they were in this little pod. And it was really neat to see.
This morning as the kids were prepping for breakfast, they wanted us to see how they brush their teeth and wash their hands, and so they just came over to the well, and all of a sudden they started banging this brick on top of the cement and rubbing their finger in it, and they were using it as a toothpaste in some way to rub off whatever's on their teeth. So, and it's amazing with their ingenuity that they will use in order to get a small task done.
They brought up the fair, and they'd never been. I think obviously for money reasons, and I would say money reasons and social reasons.
And so one night, we gathered up as many kids as we could find, probably about 25 or so.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we headed over to this fair that had some games and rides that were scary that we should have never ridden.
So we get in, and they just go nuts. It was hard keeping them, it was like wrangling cats. We wanted to keep them together, but and each kid wanted us to go on a ride with them. Gita or, Elapa would, say, come on, let's go on the Ferris wheel, and they'd point towards one of the rides. And so, you'd do that, and the other kids would be at the bottom waving, and they'd want you to go, then they'd want to go, and it was like going to Disneyland with, 30 kids, and them all wanting your attention. And so Dave and I really had a great time.
One of the things that we began to notice was that most every child in the group had some sort of bad habit, as they called it. A few of them smoked. Many of them would take these small packets of tobacco that were flavored in different ways, and they would put it between their cheek and gum and just suck on it and give them a little bit of a high.
నాకు అయ్యేం అలవాట్లు సులసి తాగను మందు తాగను నాకు ఎటువంటి అలవాట్లు నాకు ఓన్లీ నేను ఒకటే తింటా బియ్యం ఒకటి గుట్కా ఒకటి అంతే ఈ రెండే నాకు నాకు ఎలా వండుతుందని చెప్పమంటా ఒక మాదిరిగా వండుద్ది అలవాటు పడిపోయా ఒక మాదిరిగా వండుద్ది ఇంట్లో వాళ్ళ బాధల గురించి అది చేసుకోవడం నాది అది నా బాధ.
A lot of them were involved with huffing. They would take this product called Erasix, and it's basically a whitener and a diluter, and it would come in a 2-pack and cost about 50 cents in American money. They would take those things into a handkerchief or a rag and dump them in, and then just hold it up to their face and just suck in the fumes, and it would give them a high for a minute or so. And many of them were walking around with whiteness on their hands or on the tip of their lips or nose, and you knew that they had been sucking on this whiteout.
అది ఎరాజిక్స్ దాన్ని ఇట్లాగే పిల్లలు షాపుకి వెళ్ళి అలా కనిపెట్టారు రైల్వే ప్లాట్ఫామ్ మీదకి రాగానే అది అందరు తాగుతుంటే దాని గురించి నేను తెలుసుకున్నాను ఏంది అది తాగితే నిషా మత్తు అనేది వస్తుంది ఆ మత్తు ఉంటే ఇప్పుడు అది తాగామంటే బయటికి వెళ్ళి అటు ప్లాట్ఫామ్ మీదకి వెళ్ళినా కూడా ఏ పోలీసు వాళ్ళు అయినా కొట్టినా నొప్పి అనిపించదు ఇటు బయట వైపు పడుకున్నామంటే దోమలు కరుస్తా దోమలకు ఇబ్బంది పడతా ఆ పైన చలి వానాకాలంలో చాలా ఇబ్బందులు పడుతూ ఉంటారు ఇక్కడ పిల్లలు మేము అందరు వాళ్ళతో పాటు నేను కూడా అట్లా ఇబ్బంది పడుతూ ఉంటే అది తాగితే చలి అనిపించదు ఒక పక్క దోమలు కుట్టినట్టు అనిపించదు బాగా మత్తులో పడుకుంటే ఎప్పుడు లెగుస్తామో మాకే తెలియదు
కొంతమంది ఇంజెక్షన్లు వేసుకుంటారు సార్ కొంతమంది సొల్యూషన్ తాగుతారు
We first began to see needles on the ground and wondered, what are these needles here from? You know, drug users or abusers or it's actually the kids. We would actually see them take some sort of solution and shoot it into their arms. We would ask them, what is it? They would call it ample. And ample is a Telugu word for injection. And they didn't even know what they were injecting in themselves. All they knew is that it took away their pain.
మామూలుగా వాటర్ లాగా ఉంటుంది సార్ సిరింజిలో లాగి మామూలుగా బిగించుకొని నరంలో చేసుకోండి బ్లడ్ లాక్కొని వెనక్కి ఇలా ఒత్తుకోవడం నరంలో
There was one child that stood out from the rest. With a glazed over look, this orphan often kept their distance. David and Sean had a difficult time determining the child's age and gender.
Come to find out, it was a girl. She was 19 years old and her name was Gita. And to hear her story, she didn't even know what was happening to her, and yet the tragedy that would unfold in her life was just heartbreaking.
సెక్స్లో అంటే నేను కొత్తలో వచ్చినప్పుడు ఇక్కడ నలకట్ట ఉంది కదా సార్ ఒకడు పనికి పెట్టేశానని చెప్పి కొత్తలో వచ్చినప్పుడు నమ్మి వెళ్తే వారి సీరియల్ ఇక్కడికి తీసుకొచ్చి నలకట్టలు తీసుకొచ్చి నాకు ఇబ్బందులు పెట్టించా ఆడబెట్టి డబ్బులు అమ్మేసి డబ్బులు తీసుకుని వెళ్ళిపోయాడు వాడంతకు వాడు అది నేను తీరుకొచ్చి కొత్తలో వచ్చిన నలకట్ట అనుకోలేనప్పుడు నా సమయంలో ఈ భారతీయ సుధాకర్ గారు శ్రీధర్ గారు ఇద్దరు వచ్చారు నలకట్టకి ఈ పిల్ల మన హాస్టల్కి వచ్చింది కదా ఒకసారి అని చెప్పి మా పిల్ల అని చెప్పేసి అక్కడ నుంచి నాకు ఇబ్బందులు పడ్డా హింసలు పడ్డా నరకం అనిపించి అక్కడ ఉంది ఆ తర్వాత నేను ఇక్కడికి వచ్చిన భారతదేశం వచ్చినాక ఇలా తిరుగుతాం మొదలుపెట్టా లేకపోతే అక్కడే చచ్చిపోయేదాన్ని బయటపడ్డా ఇప్పటికీ చెప్తున్నానుగా వాళ్ళ దైవాలు బయట పడ్డాను నిమ్మలంటూ
ఇక్కడ ఉన్న పిల్లల్లో ఇప్పుడు ఇంతకుముందు ఉండేది అలాగే సెక్స్ పిల్లల్ని కూడా సెక్స్ చేసేవాళ్ళు ఆ సెక్స్ చేసిన వాళ్ళు ముజీబు వీళ్ళు పిల్లలని పెద్ద కుర్రోళ్ళు ఆ కుర్రోళ్ళు ఇప్పుడు చనిపోయారు వాళ్ళందరూ చనిపోగా ఇంకా 2-3 ఉన్నారు ఇక్కడ ఆ ఇద్దరు ముగ్గురు ఇప్పుడు బయట ఉంటున్నారు. వాళ్ళల్లో జానీ భాయ్ అనే ఒక అతను పిల్లలు ఇక్కడికి వచ్చారంటే వాళ్ళని కొట్టడం, అలాంటి రూముల్లో తీసుకెళ్ళటం, వాళ్ళని ఏదో ఒకటి చేయటం ఇట్లా చేస్తూ ఉంటారు. మేము వెంబటినే వెళ్ళేసి అటు ఇటు చేయలేక మళ్ళీ ఇప్పుడు మేము ఆ పిల్లోని ఏదన్నా చేస్తున్నాడని మేము చెప్పామనుకో వాళ్ళ మీద, నైట్ పూట పడుకుంటే ఏదన్నా రాయిలు తీసుకొని మా మీద వేసి కొట్టి మమ్మల్ని ఏదో ఒకటి చేయటం, కాళ్ళ మీద రాళ్ళు వేయటం, అలాంటివి చేసి మమ్మల్ని ఇబ్బంది పెడతా ఉంటారని ఒకసారి ఇట్లాగే పిల్లల్ని అట్లా తీసుకెళ్లారని చెప్పినందుకు ఒక అబ్బాయి కాళ్ళ మీద రాయేశారు. ఆ రాయేసింది అబ్బాయికి ఇక్కడ ఉన్న పిల్లకాయలు ఎవరు ఏం చేసినా కూడా ఏం పట్టించుకోరు, దానికి భయపడి.
With so much sexuality among the group and the sharing of needles, we knew that a diagnosis of HIV or AIDS had to be imminent for many of the kids. And come to find out, many of the kids already had been diagnosed. And it's no wonder that HIV and AIDS is so rampant in India.
నాకుంది సార్, నాకు ముందుగా వాళ్ళు ఫస్ట్ తెలియనప్పుడే మామూలుగా ఒకళ్ళు ఒకరు చేసుకోవడం. మామూలుగా అమ్మాయిని చేసుకున్నది వచ్చిందో తెలియదు, లేకపోతే ఈ ఇంజక్షన్ చేసుకున్న వాళ్ళు వచ్చిందో తెలియదు. చాలా మంది ఇప్పుడు మాట్లాడాలి, అదే చెప్పాగా. మళ్ళీ సత్యరెడ్డి అనే కుర్రాడు ఇక్కడ ఉండొచ్చు, చెకింగ్ చేపినప్పుడు ఆడిగా ఉండొచ్చు. శివగాడు అన్నడు ఉండొచ్చు, ఎందుకంటే వాడు ఇంజక్షన్లు ఒక్కడు చరించి ఒకడు వీడి చరించి ఛాన్సాలు తీసుకున్నాడు, వాడి చరించి ఒకటి ఇంజక్షన్ ఒకటి చేసుకున్నాడు, అందులో వచ్చింది.
According to a 2007 study by the Indian Ministry of Women and Child Development, it is reported that 2 out of every 3 children under the age of 18 are physically abused. 88% of the time, the abuse occurs within their own homes. It is also reported that over 50% of children experience one or more kinds of sexual abuse. Very few of these incidents of violence are ever reported.
డబ్బులు లాక్కుంటారు సార్, డబ్బులు లాక్కోవడం, భయపడేయడం, ప్లేట్లు పెట్టుకోయడం, అందువల్ల భయపడుతుంటా. బ్లేడ్ ఆ డబ్బులు లాక్కోవడం, కోయడం, అందువల్ల భయపడుతుంటా. అది
పోలీసులు బాగా మామూలుగా దాదాగిరిలు జాల్లో కొట్టి డబ్బులు లాక్కుంటారు అంతే. టీసీలు మామూలు కొడుతూ ఉంటారు అంతే, తక్కువ.
హోమోళ్ళు ఉంటుందిలే, పిల్లల జైలు వాళ్ళు రావడం, వాళ్ళు వచ్చి పట్టుకెళ్ళడం, అదొకటి. పోలీసులు పట్టుకొని తన్నడం, ఆ భయం అంతే.
నాకు పిల్లగాడు పుట్టి చచ్చిపోయాడు సార్, మగపిల్లాడు పుట్టి చచ్చిపోతే పిల్లగాడు గుర్తు వచ్చినప్పుడల్లా కోసుకునేదాన్ని.
As we continue to get to know many of these kids here at the Tenali train station, one of the things that's coming up in the conversation with each and every boy and girl is the use of drugs and cigarettes and tobacco and things that they're even sniffing or huffing. And the consequences are not only detrimental to their brains and their ability to learn and think, but to their lives. And so we asked Reddy to take us to a place where one of his friends had been buried just a month and a half ago. So basically what we've learned from Reddy and some of the other boys is that from time to time when one of the street kids dies, whether it's from a train accident or drug overdose, the police, it's their responsibility to bury the body, but they oftentimes don't want to get involved because they just don't want to have anything to do with the street kids and burying them. And so what they'll do is they'll pay 4 other boys 250 rupees, which is basically $5, in order to help bury the body. And so Reddy brought us here to a spot where one of his friends died a month and a half ago. Actually, he died on the train at the train station from a drug overdose. He was very thin, frail, malnutrition, and so he died. And the police paid 250 rupees to 4 boys to bury him right here in this spot. It's a 7-foot grave. It's 1.5 months old. and there are 2 more graves right next to it.
To gain perspective, David and Sean set out to interview the chief of police. As you can imagine, the police saw things differently than the kids. During their discussion, they learned that the police would not take responsibility for the children, nor would anyone else. The challenge of living as an abandoned and orphaned child on the streets of India was becoming all the more bleak. Despite the lack of power or voice in their own culture, each child dreams of a future that will be brighter than the darkness of today.
ఎక్కడైనా బతకాలనుకుంటున్నాను సార్, ఇల్లు తీసుకొని మంచిగా బతకాలనుకుంటున్నాను.
డబ్బులు సంపాదించుకొని దాచిపెట్టుకొని స్టిక్కర్లు వేసుకొనేసి బానిసగా పడకుండా బాగా ఒక ఇండ్లు కట్టించుకొనేసి ఉందాం అనుకుంటున్నాను నేను ముందు. అది
ఇంతకుముందు నేను కార్ మెకానిక్ చేశాను సార్. ఎవరైనా అందులో పెట్టేస్తే వెళ్ళి అక్కడ ఇంకా చేసాను. నేను మెకానిక్ నేర్చుకుందాం అనుకున్నాను. కానీ ఇంతకుముందుకు ఇక్కడ తెనాల్లో అడిగా చాలా మెకానిక్ షాపుల్లో. అడిగితే ఎవరు మీకు షూరిటీ ఎవరైనా ఉంటే పెట్టిస్తాము, కానీ షూరిటీ లేకపోతే తీసుకోరు, నువ్వేమైనా దెంకెళ్తావు అనేసి ఎవరు తీసుకోలేదు.
నేను వ్యాపారం చేసుకొని మంచి ఇల్లు తీసుకొని మా పిల్లని చేసుకొని ఎవరో ఒకరిని మంచిగా సుఖంగా మామూలుగా పబ్లిక్ లాగా నేను కూడా మామూలుగా ఉన్నాను.
రైల్వే ప్లాట్ఫామ్ కాదు,
బయట మామూలుగా ఏ పని అయినా సరే
వాళ్ళు ఒక స్థాయికి రావాలని అనుకుంటున్నా. వాళ్ళు పెద్దోళ్ళు అయ్యి ఎదిగి ఒక స్థాయికి వస్తే నాకు ఆనందం. అందుకనే వాళ్ళని ఇక్కడ నుండి తీసుకెళ్ళి హాస్టల్లో జాయిన్ చేశాను. వాళ్ళు ఒకవేళ బెగ్గింగ్ చేయాలనుకుంటే నేను ఇక్కడే పెట్టుకునేవాడిని. ఏడే మాతో పాటే పడుకోబెట్టి డైలీ బండ్లకు పంపించేవాడిని. వాళ్ళు అలా అవ్వకూడదని హాస్టల్లో పెట్టి హాస్టల్లో ఉంచా. అక్కడే అన్నం తింటున్నారు 3 పూట్ల. సాయంత్రం పూట వాళ్ళు నేర్చుకుంటున్నారు, ABCDలు నేర్చుకుంటున్నారు.
When we went to India, we didn't have a vision of trying to actually help these kids get off the street. We weren't trying to transition them into a home or a shelter. We were really just wanting to tell their story. But then when we came across the 2 little ones, Koteswari and Polya, we just felt so bad for them living on the streets alone, 3 and a 7-year-old, and felt like, is there something that we could do? Like, is there a possibility? And we didn't want to come across as some, saviors from America to try to help, but I mean, how could you not help? Like, how could we not do something? Especially when we knew that Harvest India was right there in town, an organization that we had worked with in the past, and we felt like, man, could we call Suresh, the president of Harvest India, and just ask him, could he take them in? Is there some way that he could help get them off the street? We knew that we couldn't do anything, but we knew that Harvest India could somehow help them have a second chance at life.
Right now, as you know, that India is the biggest country, and there are millions of orphans, because the orphans are because their parents died with HIV and AIDS, and many of them parents, they could not able to take care of them.
And so we called Suresh and was like, Suresh, you got to do something. We got to get these kids, in the orphanage. And David and I had been to his orphanage many times, but we knew it was, a lot of kids there. And he immediately said yes. He said, I will absolutely take care of them. But it wasn't that simple. We thought it was, but it ended up not being that simple. We had to go to Reddy first and ask Reddy, can you help us do this? And he said, absolutely.
With Suresh's approval and Reddy's buy-in, David and Sean knew this would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to help these children start a new life. However, one question remained. Would the kids be open to a fresh start? As the Harvest India bus arrived, David and Sean began rounding up over 20 of the kids, but it quickly became apparent that Koteswari and Polya were across town.
Go get Koteswari and Polya, 2 little kids, take them to the home.
It was important to us that all of the kids understood what this transition would be like for Koteswari and Polya. We wanted them to know what life was going to be like, from their food to clothing to where they would sleep. And ironically, when it was time to leave for the tour, Koteswari and Polya weren't anywhere to be found. And so I ended up quickly roaming the streets and ended up scooping them into my arms and just walking them back to the bus.
I have a passion and burden to take care of those children and give a place to stay and provide the education, because India is having a caste system. There are many Dalit children. Dalit means untouchable children. So those kids, most of them, they do not have any access of education. So Harvest India is also taking care of the Dalit children. So we are giving the shelter and food and education.
And here we go, running off to Harvest India's main orphanage. And the kids are screaming and hands in the air, and Kote Sori is sitting next to me and she's giggling and having a great time, and they're sticking their hands out the windows waving at people, and it was like they were, you know, movie stars, you know. They felt, it was great to see it.
The kids get off, and first of all, it's baking hot. They set up the barber station in the middle of the sun, which, you know, it's kind of true Indian style. It's pretty funny. We're out there dying, and the kids are getting their haircuts one by one. All of them go inside, they take showers.
Nagaraju, the one with the hole in his chest, told me he had not showered since January 1st.
He had not showered in a year.
And they all looked like they hadn't showered in a year. So it was pretty amazing. So they showered, they come out from the shower, and
there's a big pile of clothes that Harvest India had purchased for them, and so they're picking out their clothes and putting them on, and they're beaming with smiles, and they're coming up to us saying thank you. They were fresh, they had dignity, they had respect, they looked amazing.
They were walking different. It was just they were like different kids.
Yeah.
It was one of the greatest things I've seen. It was pretty awesome.
After they all got their new outfits on, we then rallied them all together and began to take them on a tour. We felt like, let's just give them a great lunch, feed them, and we felt like Reddy would then have an opportunity to gather them together and talk them through this whole concept. So we went downstairs, went out onto the patio at Suresh's home, fed them an exquisite meal. Chicken and multiple kinds of curry, yogurt and rice. And they had a wonderful time enjoying the food and just enjoying being there in a beautiful atmosphere.
And so Reddy has this meeting. He walks around to each one of the kids.
And he was making sure that they were all on board with the two little ones staying at the Harvest India campus. Reddy began to walk back in, and we were anxiously awaiting what he was going to say. And he begins to talk in Telugu to Suresh, and we end up finding out that he says that although the other kids couldn't see themselves at the Harvest India home, they were completely on board with the thought of helping Koteswari and Polya move into Harvest India.
It was becoming apparent that the best chance to help children is immediately when they are orphaned or abandoned. The longer they're on the streets experiencing so-called freedom, the harder it is to help them see how that freedom is actually holding them back.
Even with over 1,400 kids in 26 different homes, Suresh knows the unique challenges of transitioning kids like Koteswari and Polya into their homes. In order to protect children from being victimized, the government has become much more strict about how children are handled. And so Suresh picked up the phone in order to talk to local officials about the two kids. We were hoping that they would be able to immediately stay at Harvest India that day, but there were all sorts of hoops to jump through at both the city level and the state level. It had been an emotional day, a long day, and we just wanted to see them get started in their new life as soon as possible.
So at that time, we were really, really disappointed, upset, bummed out. And that's kind of where we left it at that moment, although we still had more time there. But that was the end of that day. And that night was very difficult, very difficult.
The next morning, we arrived at Suresh's home, and we actually heard some very good news that he had been able to work with some contacts in the government to be able to begin the process of paperwork in order to get the two little ones into the Harvest India home.
That we were able to apply on behalf of Harvest India that we are going to officially adapt, because they respect adaptation to the NGOs, non-government organizations like charities.
Wow.
So they respect us because they knew what we are and what we are doing, so those kind of things. So we are going to take them in our children's home. You know what happened? They don't want to go from here yesterday.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. Court refused.
Really?
Court refused. The boy refused.
They were crying.
Because we took them in our bedroom. And my little one and these two and another two, they are playing and they have some sweets inside and they are dancing and enjoying.
A vision to simply tell the stories of abandoned and orphaned children had turned into something so much more. David and Sean couldn't stand by while there was a chance to give two little ones the opportunity to grow up in a loving home with all the resources they need to fulfill their hopes and dreams.
And we knew that the day would come when we'd have to say goodbye, and we knew it wasn't going to be easy. We love these kids. We've fallen in love with them. We've had a great time with them, and we've bonded with them.
Tell them that we have to go back to the United States and we're going to miss them. Thank you.
Guess they'll say I've grown. I know more than I wanted to know. I've said more than I wanted to say. I'm headed home. Yeah, but I'm not so sure that home is a place you can still get to by train. So I'm looking out the window and I'm drifting off to sleep with my face pressed up against the pane. The rhythm of my heart and the ringing in my ears, it's the rhythm of the southbound train.
There are over 31 million abandoned and orphaned children living in India. 31 million is more than a statistic. Each one has a story. Each one has hopes and dreams for tomorrow. Every child deserves an opportunity to grow up in a safe, loving home that will empower them to reach their full potential.
My hope is that your heart has been captured by the stories of each one of these precious kids. As we began to capture their stories, we couldn't just stand by the side and not do something. We wanted to take action. We wanted to help Koteswari and Polya. We knew that in order to help these 31 million orphans that are in the nation of India, that we had to catch them early, that we had to partner with organizations like Harvest India, who are both indigenous and reputable and already doing an incredible work among orphans. And so that's what we've done. We have set a tremendous goal in front of ourselves, and we come to you to invite you to join us to give every orphan in India the opportunity to grow up in a safe, loving home where they can reach their full potential. By partnering with Harvest India and other organizations, we invite you now to sponsor a child for a simple amount of $35 a month. For $35 a month, you can provide them with the shelter, food, clothing, spiritual care, and ultimately the education they need in order to grow up to be productive members of society. I want to challenge you to, number one, sponsor a child. By creating space, we can help reach those 31 million. Number two, I want to invite you to spread the word about Mother India online and offline. And number three, I want to invite you to begin to serve with organizations that are working with orphans in India. For more information and to sponsor a child, go to www.31million.org.